All right, we're good.
Guess you're chairing
Yeah, I think
again.
kick us
All right, okay. Well, if you're ready, let's do something here. All right, so Al is not here today, so I will run the meeting, and we will start with a roll call. Marcus?
Present.
Paul Cook is here, Abby Bemis,
Here.
Brendan,
Here.
and Jonathan.
Here.
I don't know if I have to call Quinn or not, but Quinn is here, and I will say that this is my first meeting that Quinn has been aboard. I don't know if everyone has met Quinn.
No.
So Quinn, if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
I'm Quinn Rambo. I'm the admin for community development now, and I grew up in Sandusky but moved away, and now I'm back.
Great. Well, it's good to have you, and I will say the first time I got an email from Rambo, I was pretty excited about it, I'm not going to lie. So I'm happy you're here. All right, so moving on to election of officers. And Jonathan, do I turn that over to you?
You certainly can. This board has traditionally elected a chair and a vice chair. And so the board members are welcome to nominate a member from the board to serve in those roles.
I would move that we would nominate Al to continue as chair. I think he has indicated that he's willing to do so for another year, and to have Paul continue to serve as vice chair, because, why go a changing?
Continuity. I second that.
You sure you don't want to stage a coup?
I would assume that the pay remains the same and that we're all volunteers, so none of that changes. So.
Yes.
All right. All those in favor of Al as the chair and Paul as the vice chair, signal by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, so we will carry that into 2023. In your packet, there is an approval, there are minutes from the September 13th meeting. And if anybody has any questions or comments regarding those minutes, let me know, and if not, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Marcus and a second by Brendan. All those in favor, signal by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign, and the minutes from September 13th have been approved. So let's go to Jonathan for a program financial update.
Thank you, Paul. In your packets is our latest financial summary for the program. I'll start off by thanking you for your service and support last year, where we approved 12 projects. A list of those is here in your folder. You can see that while 2 of the projects expired, 8 were completed last year, and I'm really excited to see the range of projects that we were able to support last year, large projects throughout the city like Tambo Entertainment and the Pipe Creek Wharf project, for example, ranging all the way down to mid-size and smaller projects like the Sandusky Massotherapy move to Perkins Avenue and the Schmidt Design project on Columbus. So we've seen some really great projects undertaken and supported through this program. You can also see that many of our projects that were approved in 2021 have been completed. Some have expired, and I've indicated there on the sheet those that have expired. That frees up those funds to be reprogrammed and reallocated to new projects. I do want to point out that after the publication of this summary, last night, City Commission did vote to not extend the completion date for Market Street Collective. So those funds are now back available. The developer was notified that they are welcome to reapply should they get that project in a position where it's ready to move forward. But for now, that project and that commitment has expired, so those funds will be added to the balances that you'll see on page 2. And I'll just briefly walk you through those balances. Based on our activity last year, we had carryover or remaining funds of $130,000. Our allocation this year is $430,000 for total funding this year of $560,000. We do have a commitment for the third and final payment to Small City Tap House. That's $140,000, leaving us a balance of $420,000 available for new projects. Again, that'll increase by the amount that had been previously allocated to Market Street Collective. So overall, we've got a healthy balance in the program, which gives us a lot of opportunity to assist new projects here in this new year and continue the great development and momentum that we've been seeing in Sandusky in recent years. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Just one question. In terms of the Small City 2023 payment, are we at the conclusion of that project? Was it just the windows, or is there more involved with that?
There is another element that is planned and needs to be undertaken this year in order to receive that 2023 payment. That's further exterior restoration, tuck pointing, and also painting the outside of the building. So they've made great progress, but still have a little ways to go here this year to wrap that project up.
And do they have have we heard anything about the reuse of the upstairs floors? Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Sweet potato catering? Theirs hasn't been dispersed?
That's correct. Sweet Potato Catering was approved for renovations to their building on Monroe Street. That project did have a expiration date of December 31st, 2022, so just the end of last year. But I've spoken with Katie, and I expect she'll submit a formal request for an extension that we'll take a look at.
Thanks.
So does that 10,000 then, is that essentially expired there?
Not
It
yet.
goes back into the pot or no?
Not yet.
No, okay.
Yeah, I'd suggest, given that I expect she'll submit a request for an extension, that I have not labeled it that just yet, and we'll take a look at her request when that comes in.
And then one quick question for the Bait House Brewery. When was that approved? Because that's the only one other one that's not dispersed.
Yeah, great question. Bay House Brewery was approved by this committee for $50,000. Before we took that to City Commission, which, as you know, is required for any grant over $10,000, that project did encounter some need to look at the costs and the plans. And I know they're still working very hard to plan for a major expansion there at Bay House Brewery. And we are waiting to fully understand what those new plans are before we either bring them back to this committee or take them to City Commission.
Okay, any other questions for Jonathan as to the way the funds are laid out there? All right, hearing none, we will go into a review of the applications received.
Thank you, Paul. Our first application to discuss today is from a Foxy Girl Enterprise LTD. You may recall taking a look at this application last summer. This is a small business owned by Miss Raquel Pace, who is a Sandusky resident. This is a exciting project that is going to bring a new type of entertainment to the city of Sandusky, specifically the Ramba Mamba Jamba Party Bus. You'll recall that when we discussed this project last time, there was a desire to understand what our past practice had been around mobile businesses. We did have a follow-up discussion where we talked about the one previous mobile business that had been funded through this program. So the program does have a history of funding at least one mobile business in the past. Ms. Pace's request for funding was for $9,000 towards her total project cost of over $23,000. My initial recommendation was quite a bit lower than that, and I think that was based primarily on a desire to limit our risk that is often associated with mobile businesses. I am happy to share with you that Ms. Pace needed to continue along her timeline even despite us not reaching a conclusion yet on the grant request. And in November, she did launch the business. She successfully hosted a number of tours here in Sandusky. She's got a very nice, attractive, and professional website that is up. And she had a great article in the Sandusky Register, which I included in your packets, which highlight her new business. So she's made some great strides even without our help. She does have more improvements that need to be made in order to fully realize her vision of a first-class fun tour operation. Those improvements include additional speakers and sound system in the bus, grab bars in the bus, and exterior upgrades, improvements, and decorations to the bus. So, given the good success that Ms. Pace has made so far and our opportunity to help her fully realize this project, my recommendation is that we proceed with a grant for $7,500 towards her project. I do know Ms. Pace is here in the audience. She let me know that she'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have of her, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have on this project.
Well, I know, first thing, congratulations to Ms. Pace for getting this business venture off the ground, and the article in the paper and actually seeing the bus and looking at it, it does look like a very good time and a great value add to what we got going on in our recreation tourism economy. Just one question that I did have in terms of the age of the bus. Do you have any ability, or can this grant be kind of utilized for any type of mechanical aspects to that to make sure everything is shored up on there and that you're good to go?
Oh, yes. We are.
Can you come to the microphone? Sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our goal is the purpose of it, starting the business was to bring some energy and something new and different and fun to the area, because I know that Sandusky has a big plan for our area, for tourism, for the local people and everything. So I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of that expansion and to bring some attention to Sandusky, new businesses, new visitors, so on and so forth. So our intention was to stay just here locally, but hopefully we would love to expand to out of the area, Cleveland, Toledo, Lorain, Elyria, but we need a safe bus. We need a bus that is going to be able to make those hour rides, hour and a half rides. There's events I'd like to do in Columbus as well. So we want to be sure that the bus is capable of making a safe arrival. Now, of course, to pass my inspection for the State Highway Patrol, I took the bus to Mag's Auto. I'm sorry, you guys, I have these Invisalign braces on, and they are really tight today. I took it to Mag's Auto to pass that inspection, and he said the bus was in pretty good shape. There were a couple things that if I wanted to put it on the road that needed to be done to assure a safe arrival for everyone. So absolutely, yes, there would be a portion of that I would need to go towards mechanics.
Awesome. Thank you. I think that this business presents an opportunity to not only highlight the downtown in the region of Sandusky, but then that connectivity and bringing Sandusky residents to all the other activities that exist within the Firelands region, and then also bringing individuals from all different areas to tour around the city and be able to see everything that is going on. So once again, congratulations on getting this on the ground and the substantial investment that you've made thus far in making this into a reality. And I see that there's a social enterprise aspect to it too, on the website where you can donate towards the Center for Cultural Awareness too. So anytime that you can combine, business and social, enterprise aspects to that, I think is a great value add and a example for other businesses to do so.
I would say, I think, great presentation there, and appreciate everything that was said. As I look through the current expenses, I probably would recharacterize some of those things. I just don't think that we're in the business of covering insurance payments and things like that. So I would probably pull all that stuff out, which I did while we were talking here. And I think that the actual hard costs, what I would call for equipment, bus, uniforms, things like that, I think you're closer to 15,000 than you are 23,000. So I just, when you're looking at it and you're talking percentages, I would use that number as opposed to, because if every project came in and asked us to cover their insurance costs, I don't think we're going to do that. So I would probably back those out. But other than that, I think it's a good project and a good use of some funding.
Agree with Paul's commentary and Marcus's compliments on the business plan, thoughtfully put together, all makes sense. I do think to align with some of the program guidelines, it makes more sense to focus in on the hard costs than some of the working capital or operating-based expenses. Just have to keep it consistent from applicant to applicant, although I can appreciate the uniqueness of this industry and creating the hard costs. But I am not as quick as our banker with the quick math, so it really sounds like that'd be good, that there's still a pretty substantial base of costs that could be eligible with that caveat.
And my bigger concern really isn't necessarily this project, but it's a bigger, right, and then somebody else is coming in with what looks to be, what truly is $1 million project, but after they put in all the soft costs, it's 1.5. I mean, it shifts dollars significantly, I think. So this one doesn't, I don't think, shift dollars significantly, but, just for future. So probably like to see that reworked in the sense of just taking that out so that it's clear that we're not allocating. I think it's important to show it that, I would put it into her equity piece, but not as part of the total calculation for what we're offering, so.
Yeah, I think sometimes in the financial summary, you do that where we've got the overall investment figure and then what's deemed eligible for the program, and then we base the percentage there. So I don't know how we would go about making a motion, but I would be in support of that level of support.
Are we limited to a percentage? Is there?
Not by our statute. We, by practice, have always been under 50%. And as projects grow in size, we reduce the percentage down to roughly a general target of 10% on the largest projects. So our support has ranged typically from 10% on really large projects to, for very small projects, as much as 45%.
So I personally would make a motion, and don't feel like you have to back this one up, but I would go to the max of 45% to what is an eligible expense, and then I would just ask you to go through there and look, hey, what's eligible, what's not eligible, and then come to a figure, which I think falls under the amount that you have to bring here anyway, so if that makes sense to you, so.
I would second that.
I think we can approve an amount today, I guess is my commentary. I mean, the request is for what, 7,500?
Her request was for 9,500.
Sorry, but
The-
what's the recommendation?
Recommendation was 7,500. I did take some of those points into consideration that Paul made in looking at the dollars as well, in coming with the $7,500 figure. If that number needs to be further, drilled into right now or after the meeting, I could definitely understand that.
I mean, sorry, I don't do math quite this fast. Oh, I see okay, yeah. I mean, I think I would make a motion to, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I'm comfortable. I'd like to support this business and approve something if we can. I do understand the concern.
I would also point out that those figures were based on Ms. Pace's application over the summer, and my experience with businesses over the last few years is that their costs have only increased. So one way to structure your motion would be for the $7,500 grant, subject to Ms. Pace providing documentation, which we always require, that she has at least, the other 65% in addition to this in actual costs for, as you pointed out, Paul, capital investments.
And I would say for Ms. Pace to include mechanical repairs and things like that, because I mean, in a sense, that's what we're doing to the buildings. You're fixing things up. So, which I don't see any of those costs in here. And my guess is that there are some of those. I would probably back out the working capital, because I don't think that's a number that we would count. The working capital and the insurance, I would take that out, include everything else, and then come to 45% of whatever that number with a cap at 75.
And I think it's also, good to note that from the application, from what I can see, this is investment of her own funds. There's no financing involved. So this is an entrepreneur taking in the risk as their own and putting the investment up to get the business off the ground without that. And so they were looking to us for some sort of assistance in helping that. And so taking that into consideration as well. But repeat that motion again, Paul?
I would say that I would give up to $7,500 limited to 45% of the hard costs.
Okay.
And then, as an example, working capital and insurance would be excluded from the calculations.
Gotcha.
I'd second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second, so any other conversation or discussion? All right, hearing none, all those in favor of that motion signal by saying aye.
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 Oh, I got to do the roll call.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me write it down. All right, Marcus?
Aye.
Paul is an aye. Abby?
Aye.
And Brennan?
Yes.
And Jonathan, you don't vote, right?
Correct.
All right, so 4-0 passed there. All right, so we will move on to the next one, which I will say I have a conflict as we're the lender.
Thank you. Our next application comes from EPH Sandusky LLC. This is a business owned primarily by Justin and Lisa Brady. They do have two other investors in this project, but Justin and Lisa have a great track record and experience in the travel tourism business here in the area, and they have focused their attention now on the former Mecca Motel on Cleveland Road. They purchased this property back in December. The Mecca Motel was previously a 28-room motel. Folks that have been by there or read the reviews online know that the property was suffering from severe deterioration in recent years, but Lisa and Justin have an ambitious plan to reinvest and remake that property into the Explorer Motel, which is going to be a boutique 25-room motel catering to active travelers looking to come to this area. This is a property that's located in what we consider to be a strategic corridor, the Cleveland Road Corridor, as it's a major gateway into the city of Sandusky, located between Cedar Point Amusement Park and Cedar Point Sports Center. It's an area that we are looking to increase investment into in the coming years. Their redevelopment plans call for a full renovation of the property and each guest room. They plan to address the long, dilapidated outdoor pool by renovating the pool, probably making it a little smaller, adding new outdoor amenities, including a food truck park. Their total renovation costs are estimated at $1.3 million, although they've recently started some very early phases of this work, and I got a note recently from Lisa that she also, like other folks, only sees those numbers increasing. The total project costs are over $2 million when you factor in the property acquisition. The project is started and underway with some very basic demolition activities, but is really anticipated to gear up later this winter and into the spring with the goal of being renovated and open by this summer. In summary, this is a major investment by a small local company at a strategic property that really has the potential to enhance our tourism and lodging here in the city of Sandusky. And given that, primarily given the strategic location, the other aspects of this project and the costs, I'm recommending an economic development grant of $200,000, which would be at that level subject to approval by the city commission. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So in kind of keeping in line with the same logic as we look at that soft cost issue that Paul kind of mentioned, you take that out, this is still around 10% of a larger project, which is kind of, if I remember you saying earlier, kind of like the target where you would want to be for some of these larger projects. So although it is a substantial grant, that it is kind of in line when you look at some of the same kind of logic and going down the line that we spoke about earlier, still in that same realm.
Yeah, that's correct. There are some soft costs included in the budget, which you can see in your packet, as well as acquisition costs, which we have backed out as a committee in the past in some cases. In this case, the $200,000 I think would still be roughly in line with some of our past practice. It is pushing towards the higher end as a percentage of the project costs. And that, I think, larger participation, to me, was meant to reflect the strategic location of this project on Cleveland Road, particularly given the focus on that corridor of our new partnership with Cedar Point. The new tax revenue through Cedar Point is partially being diverted into a destination development fund, which has a particular focus on Cleveland Road. And even though this funding isn't necessarily going to come out of that fund, I think that reflects the level of priority that the city is putting on that particular corridor, which to me is a good justification for being at or near this level that I'm recommending. But to your point, Marcus, the $2 million total development costs does include some soft costs as well as acquisition costs.
Abby, anything?
I think it'd be appropriate to back the soft costs out of our 10% calculation. But very quickly, I don't think it's going to dramatically change the grant amount.
No, at 2072, you take out the 58,000, that just brings it closer to 2 million. The acquisition costs piece, if
Yeah,
then that changes the calculus a little bit.
yeah. I have a lot of confidence in the management team and their experience as you guys know, with Lisa's background in development at Cedar Fair, I have probably more confidence in these projections than the majority that we receive, just because of her experience and what she does. So I think if they think it's a smart investment, I have a lot of confidence in their decision-making and their ability to be successful, as you said, Jonathan, in a key area of town. So if the math still aligns, I'd support the staff recommendation of the $200,000 grant.
Yeah, I think it just all terms, being in sense of consistency, fairness, equity. If that's part of, if acquisition costs are part of what we determine, whether we take that in or out, then that changes things a little bit to get you around 132,000 at that 10% level, because that takes over $500,000 off of the project. But the connectivity to the bike path that I see that kind of built in there, the high priority of development on the Route 6 corridor is just something I think is paramount if I look back into when we did the presentation from Public Works about the Route 6 and the roundabouts, I think our engineers spoke about traffic increasing over 40% or some odd coming in from that direction. So there's less traffic coming in from 250 and more traffic coming in on that Route 6 due to Sports Force and the popularity. As that grows, I think this becomes a high priority for us in terms of development. So it's just as far as that we are being consistent and equitable across the board. Like the project looks great. Looking over the specs, looking over all the amenities and things that they have, I think this is a great opportunity, and the experience of the owners, I think, is definitely something that would be successful. And looking at that, it's just in that terms, we want to make sure that we're consistent across the board.
So it sounds like historically, we're all in agreement, and the guidelines are specific that soft costs are not eligible for our assistance. We focus on fixed assets, hard costs. So I think we've been consistent there. We could back those out. What I'm hearing is that there's not a blanket policy around property acquisition and whether it's included in the overall investment figure.
That's correct. I think part of our consideration in the past has been the budget and the availability of funds. I think we're in a position now with our funding levels and our budget being fairly strong to take that into consideration. And to answer your question, though, there is not a prohibition in the guidelines from funding acquisition costs. Okay. And I think we have, in some cases, done that. In other cases, felt that wasn't necessary or appropriate to take into consideration when determining the level of assistance that the city's going to be providing. The other thing I'll point out is the level of funding that the bank has provided in this case. So that is shown here in your packet. So you can see that even with our participation at the $200,000 level, there's still a substantial amount of owner equity and private funding that has to go into this project. So I think that also is good way of knowing that our assistance at this level is warranted.
And I think, looking at things, it's that financing of speculative projects, land and acquisitions of real estate with no planned capital improvements or job creation is kind of how it's worded. And this would not be that. They're definitely doing some capital improvements and looking to create jobs as well. So I think that looking through it through that lens definitely kind of lends towards that, keeping that in there.
Okay. I agree.
Brandon?
I'm good. I think it makes sense. I think it's consistent. It's a great project.
All right, so I have a conflict, so I would entertain a motion by somebody else.
I would move that we approve a grant amount in the recommended $200,000 with the normal stipulations and conditions in the Economic Development Grant Agreement.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the table and a second. Brennan, vote?
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, I could have worded that better. Abby?
Aye.
Marcus?
Aye.
All right, all in favor, motion passes. We will turn, any other comments regarding any other applications or anything like that from the panel? If not, we will go to public participation and comments. If anybody has any comments, would like to go up to the microphone and make those now. Or you can sit where you're at.
Just one thing before we
One
move to the
second.
public comments. Are there any plans in the works to maybe conduct some PR outreach program explanations for aspiring entrepreneurs who might want to take advantage of this program so they can have some face time or time to sit down to really understand what the program is for, how to utilize it, how to access it, and ideas. I think that the work that is done with RISE or Embed or anything like that, to have an opportunity for individuals to come down and have some face time so they can really kind of pull back the curtain and understand. And if they don't, aren't really immersive in the language of business, I think some of the things that we throw around may be a little bit intimidating, or they don't understand, and so to be able to go into the community and kind of really give a deep, comprehensive explanation of how this works, what's it for, and how to access it, I think would be something positive for 2023.
It's a great suggestion, and I'll take the opportunity to just let everyone here and watching know that our program guidelines and application are available on the City of Sandusky website, and I'm always happy to meet with interested applicants and talk with them, and Quinn helps me to schedule those meetings and conversations. So between the two of us, folks can reach out to us at any time. But to your other point about in taking other steps to get the word out, we're always looking for opportunities to do that, and I'm more than open to suggestions on specific ways we can do that. I will point out ECADEC has been a great partner in referring folks to us and helping them prepare to apply for us. And I know Abby and I have talked about how the city may be able to continue to work with ECADEC in 2023, and I'm looking forward to that, because I do think in the past they've been a really, as you pointed out, Marcus, a really great resource here in our community for helping businesses prepare to apply to our program and to know about our program. But any other specific opportunities for us to get the word out, we'd love to take a look at.
I like that idea, a specific session of just reintroducing them. It's been a few years. It's amazing how quickly time passes. So there might be people that are interested now that haven't heard about it before or didn't have that mindset before.
And there's always the element.
We also talked, I want to say late last year, when we were running out of funds, about a threshold or targeted spend in small business versus the more substantial projects. We did not land on a conclusion, right?
No, we didn't.
I guess I just surfaced that question for other committee members, and obviously that's more of a programmatic decision for the city to make, but early years, we had the different buckets with their allocated funds, and I recognize that that didn't provide the flexibility that we ultimately needed. But are we back at a point where we want to target some general guidelines of small business allocation versus we used to use what we call it, substantial development project or something like that?
I think it's a great point, something to keep an eye on. Perhaps as the year unfolds, we do have some large projects in the pipeline, but I appreciate that we don't want to lose the ability to help smaller projects. I think if you look at the projects that we funded last year and the year before, you see that we were able to achieve that nice mix fairly organically, but you raise a great point, Abby, that we could come to a point this year where we need to be more specific in designating some funds and setting those aside depending on the pipeline that we see for big projects. So we can keep an eye on that.
Because even if we said we designate 50 grand, which is a relatively small mark, I think, of the overall, I mean, this year it's less than 10%, but if you designate 50 grand, I mean, that's 10 or more small business projects, which is a pretty big number when you look at how many we actually do a year. I mean, there was 11 projects total in 2022, so if 50,000 is probably even high then if you look at it that way, because there's maybe 15 and 21, so.
It's nice too, because then if you did some concerted outreach, you can provide that reassurance right from the get-go. Take your time, put together a thoughtful application. We've set aside $50,000 to support the small business community. Although then, you run into definition problems too.
Yeah, and I think that, my, motivation and my sense comes from just in talks with individuals in the community, aspiring business owners. There is some hesitance and reticence to approach the city. We have to sometimes get outside ourselves to take the view from the public, and then you understand and see that we may be a little intimidating. So partnering with community groups or individuals who are embedded in the community that have, a little bit, better rapport with the public and target population of smaller businesses, I think it would be beneficial to help them, access this. You definitely first come, first served basis, but you want to have some sort of equity in terms of smaller business who may not be able to move at the speed of a larger business. And so just keeping those things in mind as we move forward.
Okay, any other comments regarding that? If not, we would go to public comments. Sharon?
Yes, I have several questions on this Mecca Motel here. You approved it for $200,000, and that's about half of this money that's already in this fund is gone. I mean, you get another big one like Jim's Pizza Box, and it's gone for the year. I mean, it's wiped out. I see that this couple's name is Brady. I just wondered if this is any relation to the Commissioner Brady. Can someone answer that question?
I have no idea.
I don't know.
You don't know?
I can tell you I went to school with Justin Brady, and he was not related to Dick at that time, but I don't.
There's no relation?
Well, let me answer it this way. As far as I know, there is not any relation.
Okay.
But I am limited to my experiences, and I'm not doing any research on that.
I thought that might be something you would want to know because you're giving out a grant here. That's okay. I've got another shot at this at the commission meeting. So they say that there's a phase 1 and phase 2. So you approve both phases here all at once for $200,000, and they will be getting that $200,000 at the end of this year. Is that correct? Both phases?
They will be getting the money at the completion of the project and all of the necessary approvals like any other project. This also needs to be approved by city commission still.
Right, and they said that they would be done at December 31st, 2023. So that whole 200,000 is due at that time if they're finished, correct?
If upon completion of the project, that's and satisfaction of all the requirements of the grant agreement, only then does money get dispersed.
You got around that one. Okay, what is the OS&E charges on this sheet? Can somebody tell me what that is? You plugged in these charges is here. Somebody's got to know what that's for.
I mean, it's for supplies that go along with the hotel. Bed linens, microwaves, lamps, things like that.
Furnitures, fixtures, and equipment.
That is actually in the next one. OSE is a little bit different, but like toilet paper. And,
So isn't that soft cost?
no, I mean, you're actually buying fixed assets with that. You get fixed assets.
Okay, so,
Again, I'm answering these in generalities, not to this project specifically, but
what is the FF&E charges for?
that would be the furniture, fixtures, and equipment is the general term for that.
Okay,
So in a hotel, you're like beds and, I don't know, other equipment.
Lamps, cabins.
Yeah, things like that.
Entertainment centers.
okay,
Things that you fill the rooms with, essentially, ironing boards.
okay, and it says here $35,000 for interest carry. What does that mean? 35,000 for interest carry.
But I would tell you that, again, not to this project, but generally answering a question of what interest carry is in the banking business is during renovations, you don't make any money. You can't, you're renovating rooms, so you can't rent them out. You still have a loan that's going on, so that carries the loan to end of construction and then get you to where you can bring people in to stay in the rooms.
Okay, and they have a contingency for $50,000.
Very common in
Yes.
construction budgets to have a contingency.
So if
clause.
the construction goes over, this 50,000 will cover it?
Right.
Correct.
That's what I thought, okay.
Actually, I would say that 50,000 in a $1 million project is probably half of what it should be. But
Okay, and they have landscaping and signage for $50,000. I thought that you were going to take the landscaping out. So you're allowing the landscaping and that in here?
I'm not aware if it's, I don't believe it's prohibited in the guidelines, and at least for me personally, I would consider that an important part of this property improvement, being on a key corridor for the city. I want to see them investing in landscaping and signs.
I would assume
I don't
some
know
of
how
that
you
costs
can
are,
say
associated with the pool,
this
too.
one can't have landscaping, but this one can. I mean, you're all over the table with this thing. It all depends on who you are, how much you can, stack the costs on this stuff, I mean, I don't understand. If you're going to make landscaping out, do it across the board. Don't discriminate, okay? Then there's a food truck set up at $50,000. I don't understand this stuff that they
So
put
that would
in
be
here.
cost for your food truck setups to be able to allow them to hook up to the site and be able to operate.
Well, it looks like we're paying for the food truck, $50,000. I mean,
I assume that's like the concrete pad.
Yeah, the concrete pad, your electric hookups. There's also, if I'm not mistaken,
so this is a setup charge?
to create it. To create in the plans. That's what, correct me if I'm wrong. When I looked at that piece, I looked at it as So I reference the food truck park in Lakewood, to where there is slots and spaces that are allocated for different food truck vendors to come, and then they come hook up, but you have to have the infrastructure set up for them to do so.
Okay,
They
so
can't just set up.
they're having what, several food truck setups then? It's not just one food truck?
Right, if you look at their renderings, they have a food truck park in the front of the property.
Okay, so how many food trucks are they expecting on that property?
That's beyond my knowledge of their
Well,
business plan.
I mean, you're giving $200,000 out, and you have a development director over here who's sitting silent over here, and he's passing all of this stuff. He's not giving any
Well,
information
I would
at
say
all.
there, Sharon, in terms of him sitting silent, I mean, I think he puts in hours and hours of background with these people to get to this right here. But, you know, we're volunteers on this committee, and he can't give us 7,000 pages to review because we don't have the time to review it. So he puts a lot of time in, puts a nice package for us together for you then to tear apart with your questions. And frankly, I would think that this would be a project that you would love. It takes an eyesore off the street. It's people are putting over $1 million in, I mean, I didn't have it for $1.5 million into a property to improve it, to make Sandusky a better place, attract more people and create jobs. I don't know what more you want us to do with
Okay,
the money,
I just have
in
one
all
more-
honesty.
I just have one more comment. It says here, a pool, $150,000, and outdoor space, $300,000. A pool, $150,000. I mean, I have to question some of this stuff here. That's all I have.
Well, I would tell you, I don't know how many pools you've put in, Sharon, but I just put one in, and it's expensive. And I don't have it nearly the size that they have, and nor am I catering to the public. So, I mean, I don't know, I think it's pretty good.
Okay, that's all I have.
And just an additional question for you, Johnson, based off her comments. So this, when I envision this and I look at this food truck park, this is an opportunity for entrepreneurs to kind of set up and conduct their business there. So this is the property owners opening up their space to other entrepreneurs to be able to come and activate the space.
Yeah,
That's my
definitely.
understanding.
Absolutely. It's really growing the commercial activity that happens at this location. And that is a piece that our zoning folks did have to dive into, but have gained comfort with and indicated is allowable as long as the food trucks go through our permitting process. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They're really taking this property, not only enhancing it, but adding to the commercial activity that happens at that location.
And while they're eating a sandwich, notice the car lot across the street and maybe go over there, buy a car and see the flooring place or the mom and pop shop across the street. And I mean, to me, I assume we charge taxes on that stuff and the money comes back to the city, so.
Yes, Tim Schwanger, Sandusky. Committee does a fantastic job. Appreciate your volunteerism, doing what you do. My question and concerns today is actually directed to the city staff that is in charge of this program. Two issues on transparency. This program, I believe, is 6 years old. Is that pretty accurate? Give or take.
2017, 2013, yeah.
Give or take, and it just seems like in the last couple of months, transparency as far as the public being able to understand what this committee does, where the money's going that we allocate through issue 8 and the admissions tax. Transparency is starting to wane a little bit, and that comment is based on about 2 months ago. Staff decided that it's too time-consuming for the administrative assistant to do what I consider to be substantial minutes, not verbatim. Nobody's looking for verbatim. But it looks like the minutes, not only in this committee, but other committees, are if a resident speaks, all that's in the minutes is so-and-so spoke on this issue, and that's it. We all know that videos of YouTube for this committee don't last forever, so it's very important to get that information into the actual minutes for perpetuity. The other transparency problem comes with early on in this program. I've been following it for ever since its inception. is that if a business came before this body, wanted grant dollars, all loan information, all personal funding, all drawings, all contractor information, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, was part of your packet. And somehow down the road, the last 6, 8 months, we've gotten away from that. I don't know if we're trying to protect somebody on the city commission, but it seems like we've lost track of all the detailed information for this committee to make a decision on gap financing. And again, I put the blame back on the staff for that. When this program first started, it was all about bricks and mortar. Now we're getting into landscaping, we're getting into, mobile businesses. Nothing wrong with Ms. Pace's idea, but we're starting to expand this program in directions that it was not originally intended to do. And as a taxpayer, approving issue 8, I have an issue with that. This committee needs to get back to the glory days of it's for windows, facade improvements, interior improvements, whatever that might be. And I can tell you, we're starting to get into also, this committee's getting into, and staff is getting into approving grants after the fact. Acquisition, and we just talked about acquisition, I might not have heard it right because it's horrible back here. We're paying for acquisition when the acquisition's already taken place. I can tell you as a homeowner that if I want a grant from the city to improve my home, I can't put my roof on first and then come back to the city for a grant. There's no reason why this grant system's any different. From what I understand, we mentioned about a mobile project that was approved, and it was not specifically mentioned which one it was, but if it's Erie Fisherman for their mobile trailer, it's my understanding from that individual that he did not get approval for that grant. That he got approval for some equipment, I believe it was a couple of scales, which he never did use the grant. I don't know if anybody wants to maybe give more detail on what mobile business we're talking about. But we're starting now to get into, again, arenas that this committee before in the past has said no to. And we're also, again, approving grants when a project has already been completed. This should not be an after the fact program. And I think that Ms. Bemis had a great idea that we need to get back into the original intent. And I went back and looked at 2020's grant program, and there actually was a slot for substantial business, small business, and I can't remember, the third one was signage and facade. It was signage and facade was separate. And again, now it's all been lumped into the same bucket. Again, don't know if we're trying to protect a city commissioner that has a sign business, but who knows? I'm just throwing that out. That's it. Thank you. Appreciate the time. But again, I will say one more thing. I've talked to Mr. Harris about this issue with transparency, and he's a transparency freak. Okay, so I'm hoping that, I don't know if you guys discuss, in staff, but transparency is very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any other comments? Yep.
How are you guys today?
Hello.
Okay. My name is Billy Hill. I'm at 609 Decatur Street. I don't want you to think that I actually watched everything on video prior to coming here. I was in a rush to pick my daughter up at work. But I would like to say that I'm a small business owner. I'm currently in the Sandusky Mall. I did get the opportunity to hear Mr. Harris say that it would be a great idea to possibly create a program to make things a little bit more transparent, to make it a little bit more easier for individuals to understand the application. I'm gonna tell you what I call the application. I call our application a believe in me application. because once you fill it out, if you put everything on there, you have a business plan. It's up to the small business owner, the local individual, to actually present it to the commissioners, like you said, $10,000 over, or however it goes. And it's whether or not if the commissioners actually truly believe in that individual. One problem that I've seen, and I'm the individual that I don't like bills. My business is totally funded by myself. I'm debt-free. My credit-to-debt ratio is 0. I've never had to come to the city to ask for money, but I will say that hearing issues through the community, and I'm going to say specifically the Black community, small business owners, whenever they've come to inquire about the application, they've always been shifted towards the grant of the signage, never anything beyond that. So I had questioned that over the years. So I actually, prior to deciding to go to the Sandusky Mall, I actually went to a few locations downtown just to see if it would be a good fix for my business. And I actually did have the opportunity to talk to someone in the development department. And believe it or not, I was also shifted to the same pot. That's where I'm going to say that we definitely need some type of program. It could be within our churches, it could be within this office, within any school, to where anyone can show individuals, not just Blacks, but young women that are inspiring. I have daughters that are aspiring to be entrepreneurs, just to bring more awareness. And when you see $200,000 being given away, does anyone here know what it takes to the average small boutique, what it costs to actually start a small boutique on average within the United States? Does anyone? No. Take a guess.
50,000.
You're right, 48,000. Now watch this. How many storefronts do we have downtown that's empty?
How many?
Yes.
This is
A couple dozen.
Okay. Now, let's take the windows. Now, let's take the 200,000 we just gave away. 50,000 each. How many storefronts have we occupied at that level? And on that level, from I look at it from my business background, managing Walmart, managing McDonald's restaurants, what better suits me as I'm going to say our city as a business. What better suits my business? It better suits my business to get sales tax, to get goods bought, to get the business owner to pay taxes. That better suits my business. I just feel that what we're doing right now, I think we've gone above and beyond to take on big projects, regardless what it's going to do for the corridor what we just talked about. Look at downtown. We're exhausted. You can't put another restaurant. I mean, we need to focus on what's going on right now. And it is what's built America, and we're getting away from that. What has built America is small businesses. And if we keep on this pattern, I personally don't see, because I chose to actually go to the Sandusky Mall, because believe it or not, it was cheaper. How is it possible that we actually gave individuals, be it tips, be it money, and then we didn't double back and somehow say, hey, this is what's going to happen. Can you guarantee if we're going to give you this type of funding, like someone said, it's going to create jobs. This new thing is going to create jobs. I'm definitely on it. I feel that if we're going to give away $300,000, it should create jobs. It should create jobs. We're in a city where the average household income is only $26,000. You don't think we have a sense of responsibility towards the citizens? $26,000 a year. What's the number one problem in this community now? Housing. I work at Ventura. Her mom works at Ventura. I could not imagine if I had to pay $1,200 a month. That's 2 of my checks just on housing if I didn't have a mortgage. Small business is where it starts. It's where it starts. And believe me, you might have never met me, but almost everything Tim puts on video, whatever I can see on YouTube, I watch everything. But it's getting to the point to where the money, we're just so loose with it. And it's not going to the people right now who's going to fuel Sandusky. I commend that person that's going to build the thing for what we built.
The Mecca Hotel?
Yes, I commend them for that. It's going to create individuals to come in, and as I know, but here's the thing with that. If you're putting a food truck, usually they have to pay $250 throughout the city. Over there, guess what? We're losing that $250. Am I correct or wrong?
It's still
I
within
think
the city.
when we
it's still within the
Yeah, it's
city.
still within the city.
It's still within the city.
It's in the city, but if it's on personal property, we don't get that money when he sets up. So if I had a food truck and I set up downtown, there's a fee that I have to pay to do that. So we're losing that money right there. So those are the little things that, as a micromanagement that I do, that I look at those little things just like that. But the type of money that we are giving away can better, and I'm not saying just give it to anyone, definitely do your due diligence and make them go through some management courses. Check and see what they've done. Let's see if they're capable, like someone has said, I know this individual very well, and you know that they have the capabilities of producing and making that business happen. I know at least 4 people that can do the same thing right now and can't get any funding. And if they can't get it, because once again, it's not transparent. They feel like this is a brick wall. They don't know how to enter in here. And in reality, that application is easier than an application to apply for McDonald's. And that's the truth. It really is. I mean, the business plan, the average person can't do that themselves. So they're going to have to get some help with that. But everything else, if you're in business, you know a little bit about how to create a budget. You know a little bit how to do this. And it's just like hiring. You could weed through it and see who's capable and who's not. But I just personally feel that we can better utilize the funds and allocating just a little bit. Well, I can say this. Most of these buildings down here at lower level are not big enough for doctor's office. They're not big enough for attorneys. They're going to have to be retail shops. And coming from a solid retail background, I always say, even when I go to the mall and I look out there, I mean, it's slow, what people would say, but no, it's very successful for my businesses up and out there. It's very easy to compete with 250. You know what we have? We have waterfront. If I wanted to eat a meal versus in Texas Roadhouse, and I could eat a meal and then sit down and go look at the water, I'm coming here, which I do. I come downtown. Me and she can tell you, we're down here so much on the pier, it's ridiculous. That's where we spend a lot of our time. I always say, me and Tim would disagree sometime on certain things, but that was a great investment. It was a great investment, and you can tell by the foot traffic. Born and raised in Sandusky, moved into our home at the age of 6, still there at 56. I'm just 2 blocks up the road. I am one to tell you, the foot traffic is tremendous. This year, we're going to see a major increase of tourism, people down there, just after the pandemic, just feeling a little bit more comfortable, and you're going to see double the amount of people you've seen down there. But you know what? It's like I had the opportunity to talk to Marcus. We don't even have one spot. All the places that me and her mom and my other kids travel, where can I even go get a cup that says the city of Sandusky? This is a major tourist attraction, and we don't even have a novelty shop down here. Those are the things that I say that we should have someone in office to be out here trying to attract, just like Cafaro does and every other industry like that, Mr. Sortino. They have someone that looks for businesses and see if they'll fit in for what's down here. We have the money to do it. And then last but not least, I definitely want to bring this to your attention. When I look over the application, I'm going to say I don't feel that it's fair, and I'm going to tell you why. It is a statistical fact that African Americans have a harder time getting funds as far as the traditional way. So if we're trying to gap and bridge what we're trying to achieve financially, how can we possibly do that? If we have a hard time applying for loans and we're turned down on loans at a greater percentage than any other nationality, how can we actually come to our city and say, hey, I have a great idea. I've been running a online boutique and I think I want to take it into a brick and mortar. But then you guys are questioning how we're getting our finances. And I think that is definitely something that needs to be looked at, because even though it's just a door to be, that really, if it was me, I would definitely, if I had a hard time getting finance, I would definitely bring it to your attention and say, hey, this is my application, this is what it is. And I have a hard time getting finance. My credit score is good, but we all know that. Getting a small business loan or business loan nowadays, you have to have a ton of money to do that. especially in this economy right now. Banks are not, they're not just loaning money that easily in this day and age. But just to give you an example with Wells Fargo, just even during the pandemic, I believe that Wells Fargo turned down, I want to say 60% of all black applicants. We have to know who's going to go through the legwork of applying for a home if they didn't feel they checked their credit score, if they've gone through the process, and they're going through a situation with that right now. But that's just brought to your attention to let you know that it is harder for African Americans to actually get loans. So if it's hard for my community to get loans, how can we come here? And then when you look at, we're 33% minority here. We make up 30% of the population, but when you walk downtown, there is no presence of us. And it's not because I've heard countless different Afro-Americans trying to establish businesses, but then, like I said, once again, it's the bridge between understanding the application, which is real easy, but just the conversations that we've had and just gotten out to the community, oh, they're gonna turn us down, or it's hard, or they're gonna ask for this, when it's not that hard at all. It's real simple, and that's one thing that I'm here, and I'm probably going to try to establish, get into the black community, to look at the application and to show them how easy it is to apply, because once again, it is what I call a believe in me application. It's totally different than going to the bank versus what you guys require and what the commissioners require. But that's about it, and I thank you for your time.
We thank you for your time and your comments, and we think we have some stuff to talk about here internally, and I think that's all that we have for today. So I will remind everybody the next meeting is March 14th, 2023. I assume Quinn will send something out for that. And if you can't make the meeting, let us know, Quinn know 2 days before the meeting. So all that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, I just wanted to say that, Mr. Hill, thank you for bringing your daughter with you as you participate in the public process, in the civic process. This is how we make the next generation more comfortable with engaging with government. And so I applaud you for bringing your daughter along to this particular event. Thank you. A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. All those in favor, signal by saying
Marcus, do you have his contact information?
Yes, I have his card.